Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Diablo 4 video, I want to share 5 basic tips and tricks with you that I wish I would have known sooner. The very first thing I want to talk about here is consumables. You have 3 different categories of consumables. You have your elixirs that start out at level 10, and then the next tier is at level 20, and then I believe 40, and then the advanced elixirs you can use that gives you 8% bonus experience is unlocked at level 50. Those are crafted with materials, and not just bonus experience, but they also give you other perks and buffs as well. Definitely worth trying to keep up time on those. The elixirs last for 30 minutes. The second type of consumable you can get was introduced in Season 6 with the opals. Now, these opals are obtained from the Seething Realm. What you have to do is you have to go kill a Realm Walker. It spawns every 15 minutes, I believe. Once you kill it, it's like a world event. Other people can tag along. But once you kill it, you can go into the Seething Realm, and when you're in there, you can choose what type of opals you want to get as your final reward. Once you advance all the way through, kill the final event thing at the end, you get the opals that you chose. These also have a 30-minute duration as well, and they stack with elixirs. The third consumable type I want to talk about here is incense. You can actually have 3 different incenses on at the same time. Now you have to look at the incense, and in the gray wording there, it will tell you what type it is, if it's a type 1, a type 2, or a type 3. I wanted to point that out, that you can actually use 3 incense at the same time. So that's, if you're keeping track here, that's 5 buffs you can have up all the time. Now the incense do cost a little bit more materials, and so if you're keeping them up every 20 minutes, you may run out of materials, but materials aren't that hard to get. I really only stack up a full 3 incense if I'm trying to push the pit or something like that. But the incense and the elixirs is really nice as well to help you get to that armor and resistance cap, and that's what I want to talk about next, is the resistance and armor cap and some kind of things you can do to help you reach those caps. Now, in most action RPGs, you want to get your armor cap and your resistance cap, obviously, so you're taking less damage and hopefully dying less. The armor cap starting out is 1,000 armor. Now, resistance is by default cap out at 70%. They can be increased through methods to get up to 85% resistances. But in this video, we're going to just keep it simple here and talk about some things you can do to help you get to these caps. Went ahead and jumped to the gameplay here to show you out. So when you're leveling up in pre-level 60, you're going to want to, it probably won't be as important unless you're pushing up into the Penitent difficulty. But the reason this is important is because once you get into Torment 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can see that your armor and resistances are reduced for each of these higher difficulties. Now, that's why it's important to be paying attention to these, especially when you start to progress into these Torment levels. Hopefully this information will help you out with just that. One of the quickest and easiest ways to do this, especially early on, is through tempering. You're just going to want to go over to the blacksmith, tempering, and throw in a piece of gear here that you can temper a defensive onto. And under your defensive, it's just under natural resistance. These can roll really high. I mean, you can roll up to 50% resistance, you can see right there, which is amazing. You can also get worldly endurance, which can help you get a little bit more armor as well. But with the tempering stuff, sometimes just before my build's up and running and everything, I'll use this as a stepping stone towards my gear progression and pushing into those higher torments. Now, another trick you can do is on your jewelry. These sockets over here on your jewelry, you can throw in resistance as well as armor. Now, if you have a piece of jewelry that doesn't have a gem socket on there, you can come over here to add sockets, and you can throw the item in there. I know this isn't a jewelry, but that's how you add a socket, pretty simple. Now, over on your jewelry slots here, let's go ahead and just touch on the gems real briefly. Each of your different types, your amethyst is going to be shadow resistance, diamond is going to be all resistance, which you probably wouldn't want to do on your gems just because you can get more resistances, you know, going with the other ones here. And then you have your emerald. It goes in there and tells you have poison, I think fire. Your sapphire is cold resistance, and I believe your topaz is lightning resistance. So those are kind of your resistances here that you can see. And it's a really great way. If you're missing, like maybe you're really low on one, you can throw one of those gem types into here to meet that resistance. But what I want to point out here that I usually use, and you can see it I have currently, is these skulls. The Grand Skull, which is the highest gem that you can make, is Grand. I think they recently added that in Vessel. We can get 240 armor per gem. That's about 720 armor you can get just from these gems. And if you're not even on a torment, you're already almost to armor cap from that alone. Now, if you're really struggling still with all of this, you can come over here and you can enchant onto some of your items. You can actually roll resistance to all elements. You can see I have that on here, which is really nice. But you can also roll armor onto some of these as well. Now, ideally, you want to find other ways to get your resistances up even higher. You can do so through the Paragon board, come into your filter here, and obviously you filter by resistance here, and then you can come in and get more resistance as well. There's some nodes in here that give you just straight up all resistance, which is really nice as well. There's some tips to help you hit those armor and resistant caps. Now we're going to go a little bit more basic here with this next one, and we're going to be talking about inventory management. One thing, if you've been playing the game, you probably already know this, but if you're a new player, it's really awesome to know that if you go into your items here, if you're on keyboard, it's spacebar, but you can mark it for trash, or you can mark it so that it doesn't get destroyed and bookmark it so it gets saved. And this is really nice, especially if you have a big inventory and you're wanting to make sure some stuff doesn't get deleted, or maybe you just want to salvage all your junk. Really straightforward stuff here. The other thing I wanted to point out here is this little icon right here that shows that if I salvage this, I will get an upgrade for my codex. I wish this icon was showed all the time, but it's only when you're like talking to the blacksmith and stuff that you'll actually see it. But just kind of that's what that means. Keep an eye out. Make sure you don't vendor that. Make sure you sell it. Speaking of which, should you be vendoring or salvaging your gear? Honestly, it's up to you. What I usually do is when I have a bunch of materials, I'll start to vendor. But this season, season 6, I haven't even had to vendor. I've had lots of gold thanks to all those obols, and I've just been salvaging everything for all the materials. Another thing I wanted to point out here that will help you out with, I guess, inventory or picking up is make sure you equip your pet. I can't tell you how many times I make a new character and your pet is not on by default. Make sure you come in here and just equip a pet. I think you just get one by default. If not, there's a simple quest you can do, I think, in Kiowa Shot or something like that. But the pets are really great because they actually auto pick up gold and stuff for you. So make sure you throw on a pet when you very first make your character. Another one here that I don't know if this is really inventory what this is, but I just want to include with glyphs. And when you're sorting through, go ahead and move my camera over there so you can see what I'm talking about. Sometimes I'll be looking through my glyphs and I'll be wondering where a specific one is. Now they're actually organized here based on your highest level first, and then after that it goes alphabetically. So if you're trying to look through here, you can see some of these were higher up because they're higher level, but then it goes down here alphabetically. So if they're all level 1, super easy to find. I know that was pretty random, but hey, I know once I figured out they're in alphabetical order, I was like, oh, this is a little bit easier to find the glyphs that I'm looking for when I'm planning my builds and stuff. Next up, I want to go ahead and talk about your mercenaries. If you're on keyboard, you can hit Shift-M to get into this UI here, and you're going to travel to your den. A couple of things here. So you have 4 different mercenaries that you can equip and spec into. We're not doing a full deep dive into the mercenaries or anything, just some things that I think you should know. So each of these mercenaries you can level up to level 10, and you should, because if you look at your rewards here that you get, rapport is the leveling system. When you level up, you get a new reward up to level 10. After that, it becomes a repeating reward of getting these pale marks that you use in bartering. But these perks, you want to make sure you level up all 4 of your mercenaries to 10 before you just go ham on one of them, because these are going to unlock different bartering options in your bartering dude here that you're going to be doing. You can look ahead and see, like, this one gives me utility aspects, and you can also unlock summoning boss materials here. Yeah, level up all your mercenaries to level 10 and then start just deciding which one you're going to use 100% of the time would be my advice. And then once you have hit level 10, make sure you're going in there and you're checking to see if you can claim that repeating reward as well. Now, these pal marks are used over here at bartering. This is usually worth checking at least once a day. And if there's nothing you like in there, you can actually get a free restock once per day as well. I always like to come in here and get my masterworking materials if they have them. I usually make sure I do that at least once a day. Just come in here and see if there's anything that I need to use that daily free reroll. Otherwise, it does cost 100 pale marks to reroll beyond the one daily free one. Last but not least here, I wanted to talk about your seasonal blessing that you can get here. Now, eventually you're going to have all these maxed out and it won't matter. But early on, there's a couple blessings in here that are worth pointing out. So if you're doing different activities, you're going to want to make sure you have points in certain blessings, right? So you have the Purveyor of Curiosities. This is your gambling. This is where you're spending those obols. Now, when you gamble, and if you have points into this, you have a chance to get an additional item when you gamble. This is really good, and I swear it procs more than 40% of the time. It's really great. So if you're going in there, and let's say you don't have all your Smoldering Ashes yet, and so you're like, well, I'm going to go gamble. Maybe make sure you take a couple points out of experience or whatever, pop them into your Urn of Curiosities right before you gamble so you can get those bonus items, and then you can, once you're done gambling, put your points back or whatever. And then same over here on the Urn of Opals. These give you a chance that when you finish that Seething Realm, remember we talked about earlier with the consumables, that you have a chance to get additional opal rewards as well. So if you know you're going to do the Realm Walker, maybe take some points out of one of these, slap them into here, just so you get that reward as well. But for me, I usually go with the boosted XP, and then I'll kind of flip between these two. And then, you know, if you're doing Infernal Hordes, you have that buff over here as well. So my whole point in this one was, especially early on in the season, make sure that you are using the points according to what activity you are doing. Eventually, you'll max them all out like I have, so it won't really matter. And that's going to wrap it up for this Diablo 4 5 basic tips and tricks video. Hopefully you found this video useful and or entertaining. If so, don't forget that like button and subscribe to the channel if you think I've earned it. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today. Unlock some pretty fun perks such as early access to videos when I put out a big batch, some behind the scenes, as well as some spoilers that I find while I'm editing. And it also helps out the family a lot. But don't forget, your view alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.